Here we are with Chris Jericho. I don't want to interrupt you. It's probably more important than whatever we're about to talk about.
No, it's not.
Chris, what's the haps?
We just finished talking for like an hour and a half, so I needed a couple seconds just to
Relax.
decompress for a sec. But the haps. You're pretty hip, Sam. Congratulations on your own show. How long has this been going on for?
Well, in some form or another for a few years, but my own solo thing, it's probably a good year and a half.
Right on, man. You're still keeping your other gig too, so it's good. It's like you're an Iron Maiden and you get to do your own solo records at the same time. You're the radio version of Bruce Dickinson.
Well, you know how important it is to be everywhere,
especially
when you have a passion to do things.
That's right. You got to branch out and build the brand of Sam, the Music Man. Or is it Sam? What would we call you now?
I'll just go professional broadcaster, Sam Roberts, because I tell people there's not a lot of professional broadcasters left. It's all rock stars and wrestlers doing radio shows.
That's true. It's funny. There's actually a guy in Canada who had a string of hits in the early 2000s named Sam Roberts. I'm sure you've heard that before. Yeah,
I discovered him. No.
So you're not him.
I discovered him when I was in college, when I started Googling myself. And nobody was Googling. There was no results for me when I was in college.
No girls were Googling you.
No.
And still haven't.
But this dude.
Yeah.
And he's much better looking than me.
He is.
Obviously.
Much more talented, smarter.
He's a rock star,
richer,
for God's sake. Yeah, he's got way more money.
Probably change your name to like Sam F. Roberts or something like that. Just to make some distinctions there.
And some mystery, because what does the F stand for?
Yeah, well, exactly. I think we know.
I got to ask you this, because you've been saying that this period in WWE that you're just getting out of, for you has been the funnest, and you're like some of your favorite matches have just taken place. Correct?
Are you talking about from the run in 2013?
Yes, like what you just.
I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's been one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It was definitely. When you come back. With less and less frequency, you don't really know exactly how it's going to go. But from the very first appearance at the Royal Rumble until the last, match I had in Providence with Curtis Axel, I thought the matches kept getting better and better. Almost, it was got kind of in the groove and got on a roll.
Yeah,
and it was really, really, really happy with it. I really enjoyed it.
I would think a lot of that has to do with confidence, like just the fact that now you're at a place where not only have you achieved kind of all there is to achieve in WWE. So you don't have to prove yourself anymore, but also you've gone outside of the business and you've got this other thing going, so you're kind of the shit,
Well, in some ways, confidence, you got to have confidence. I mean, that's the number one most important thing to succeed in anything you're doing, whether it's wrestling or music or being on the radio or whatever. You have
Professional broadcast,
sorry,
yes.
I'll get that right. You have to know that no matter what circumstance or what situation you're in, you can knock it out, know, and when you have that confidence, you can do no wrong. I mean, even last time I was here at Sirius, we had 10 minutes to do a boneyard takeover for Jose, and Al Sharpton and his people were waiting outside the studio. We literally had 10 minutes to do a show that's an hour long. And we didn't have a playlist. We didn't have nothing. She's like, hey, Chris, here you go. Like, okay, today we're going to play some Metallica because I love Metallica. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, next band. And then Sevenfold. Blah,
and
blah,
you
blah.
also got to figure out how to sound different from any other schmuck on the radio.
Exactly. And we have 10 minutes, and the people that are coming in at the end of the 10 minutes are standing right outside. There's windows here so you can see in. So, but I had the confidence, knew what I was doing. We got it done and banged it out. And I think you're right as far as wrestling, too, is that, there's a real experience level that I have that a lot of other guys don't have in the WWE right now. So I have a real calmness and confidence with what I'm doing to know that it's never a mistake unless people know it's a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also, too, there's a level, you set the bar for yourself. I wouldn't want to go back and be half-assed Chris Jericho. If I'm not in contention for still having the best match of the night, I might not have it every night, but I might not have it every night, but other nights I do. If there's ever a time when I start feeling that I'm dropping level-wise, I'm done.
Was it a risk for you? Did you feel like it was a risk coming back at the Royal Rumble just as a surprise, as opposed to the kind of elaborate ways you've entered in the past?
No, and that's why I wanted to do it that way. It was, I think people had figured out if there's ever any kind of enigmatic,
any sort of countdown
or strange,
brooding,
enigmatic videos that it's going to be me. And I thought, well, what if, what could be the best way to surprise people? Well, we've done let's fool them with, weeks of buildup. Why don't I just show up?
Right.
And that was one of the coolest moments of my career because we were legitimately able to keep that a secret, which in this day and age is almost impossible.
It is.
And nobody stooged it off. And not a lot of people knew. But when I got there during the day, I mean, you see more and more people. I was sat on the bus in the parking lot for, 3-4 hours or whatever it was. And just
so you didn't even want to
be
in the locker room?
No.
Because you didn't want any of the boys tweeting out.
Right.
Guess
Because
who I just
there's
saw?
always loudmouths or whatever. But the thing that was really cool is I had to go have a meeting with all the guys in the Royal Rumble, and there was 30 people, and then I got to walk through the hallway, and people saw me, but still nobody tweeted it. And I was checking like every couple minutes, looking online, like Jericho spotted backstage or
And
whatever. Nothing. Not one report. There was reports of Carlito's here, Morrison's here, Benjamin's here. None of those guys were there.
Yeah.
But I was there.
Yeah.
And it was really cool that everyone, I'm not saying everyone pulled together, but nobody thought it was their right to spoil the surprise, which is such a cool thing, like I said, in this day and age. And that's why the reaction that I got when I came out was the biggest of my career. It might be on par with the original debut with The Rock in '99, but
I was going to ask you about that because, like, if you can isolate everything that happened before and after that and just take that moment of your initial debut.
Which one? Oh, the '99?
When the screen flashed Jericho for the first time and everybody just went nuts. Is that the best singular moment that there's been for you?
I don't think you can ever really say there was one single. That was a great moment, definitely top 10. But the Royal Rumble reaction, I think, rivals it, if not. I mean, it's fresher in my mind, you know. So,
and it probably also means something different to. Okay, the '99 moment was great because you come from kind of fighting for everything you ever had in WCW to you show up on WWF and you're treated like a star. Whereas when you're coming back in 2013, it's like, do people still care?
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to both. When you're first coming out there, yeah, I came from WCW, but half the crowd had no idea who I was, and also too, yes, now I'm finally in the WWE, but I really got to start the real climb now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, okay, I'm here now. Where do you go? And it took a long time to kind of get to that level of, you know, the build up and push that I got leading up to getting to the WWE was far and beyond bigger than the push that I actually got the first 2 years I was there.
Right.
Once I got there. In 2013, I knew that people would react as soon as I came back because I'm like the returning, guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a surprise. They know who I am. They're happy to see me. But still, what do I got left in the tank? And the funny thing was I showed up super hungover. Went crazy the night before in Anaheim. Almost missed my flight. Almost got arrested.
There was no part of you thinking, like, this is not a good idea?
I just don't think that way. I just go with the flow. And I've been doing this for so long.
Right.
I knew I could do it, And then when I showed up there,
is that the biggest match you've been hungover for?
No. Well, maybe the biggest one. But the first match I ever had with Ric Flair on the first SmackDown ever, I was so hungover. It was the worst. The first bump I took, I thought my head was going to explode.
Did you know you were working with Ric Flair before?
No.
Or so you just showed up and you're hungover?
Yeah,
and
I was
like,
doing press in Daytona, and we were drinking flaming alcohol, which is never a good thing. And then the other time we had a pay-per-view in Chicago, which was the Duchess of Queensberry match. It was called Me and Regal. Some ridiculous match they came up with where there was a Duchess there, and I was really fucking bad for that one too.
You have to be drunk to agree to a Duchess of Queensberry match.
So, but then when I was finished the Royal Rumble match and I came through, and they're like, "Oh, you went 48 minutes," and I was like, "Really? Like it was that long? I didn't even think about it." And
does the adrenaline cure a hangover too?
I don't get hangovers. I'm smart
really?
enough. Yeah. I just drink vodka on ice, straight vodka on ice, and that's it.
Is there enough water in the ice that everything?
Yeah, exactly. And there's no sugar. There's no mix. So I kind of worked it to that. It's the only thing I drank. So it wasn't like I was hungover. I was tired, maybe.
That's another thing you have experience with. You've been able to perfect it.
Yes, absolutely. Trained professional.
Yes.
But it was funny because the first couple months I was there, it was almost like a rib. I think I worked 30 minutes in the Elimination Chamber, and then they had me and Punk go out there in Atlanta where the fans chose who Punk would face, and the whole office was convinced it was going to be Randy Orton. And this was my second Raw back, and I was like, you guys are crazy. It's going to be me.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we did a flash poll on the website, and they said Randy Orton was a flash poll. Oh, I guess it's a test poll. I'm like, dude, that's a test poll on a Thursday afternoon. Monday night, when this happens, they will pick me. And they're like, well, let's just pretend that. So they had Punk going over the match with Orton and me going over the match with Wade Barrett. And then 30 minutes before showtime, before we're actually going out there, and your winner is Chris Jericho by 67% to 30%. And everyone's like, hold on. Everyone's like, oh, we can't believe it, as I told you. So we had 30 minutes to put together this match, and then we ended up having like 25 minutes. So the first 3 or 4 appearances, it was 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 25 minutes with like 25 minutes to get ready for it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like real, like, here we go, back in the fire again, man.
It.
Yeah, so,
but when they do that stuff, when they do the polls and stuff like that, guys are literally left with minutes to put together matches.
Because they were convinced, like I said, they had done the research. So yeah, it's going to be Punk versus Orton, and they had that in the script. They had it up on the board, and I was just sitting there going, "You guys are nuts." And then as soon as it got announced, I went into the writers' room and I yelled out, "Fuck your flash poll!" And out we went. And Punk and I worked so many times, so it was a lot of fun, and I like matches like that. Anyways, the last one I had on Raw in Brooklyn against R Van Dam, RVD.
No, that's what the kids are calling him now. R Van Dam.
R Van Dam.
Yeah.
It was a great match, and it was 3 segments with commercial breaks. I think it ended up being about 25, 26 minutes. And seconds before we went out, we got an extra 8 minutes and a commercial break added. So it was an extra 11 minutes added.
Wow.
Seconds before we went out. And I just called the whole thing on the fly. Everything. And it's fun to do that, like live without a net. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier about having the ultimate confidence and knowing no matter what I do, it's going to work out.
Is it weird going there now and getting opportunities like this as if it's just a regular thing, whereas 10 years ago you had to claw for 30 seconds of promo time? No,
because that's part of getting over and getting the respect from the office. I think that I always had once I kind of established myself in the first half of my career in the WWE, I had a decent level of respect, but it wasn't like I was a key guy. But then when I did the Shawn Michaels feud in 2008,
yes,
which was the best feud of my career.
I was about to ask you about that.
Best feud of my career, and I'll go on record and not feel like I'm bragging and saying one of the best feuds of all time.
Yeah.
It was so well constructed. I'm writing my 3rd book, and that's a big part of it, going through the whole nuances. And I'd forgotten because you do it and you move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So I went back and Googled it, and there was a timeline, like everything that happened, and just reading through it, it's like, holy smokes.
Well, it was amazing when it was happening because it was like everything that was happening on TV, it's like there's the product and then there's the Jericho Shawn Michaels thing.
Yeah.
Like you guys were almost a whole separate world.
You're right. That's a good point, and I agree with you because it was taken to the next level.
And was that writers doing that, or was that you and Shawn?
Writers had some input, but from what I recall, I'm not going to be so bold to say it was all us, but we put together 75% of it.
How do you prep for something where you're going to go out there and say, okay, here, what's going to happen is I'm going to hit your wife?
Well, I wasn't supposed to. Excuse me. I wasn't supposed to actually hit her. It was just supposed to be a work punch. But there was a miscommunication, and there was a crossing of the wires, and she took a slight step in, and I took a slight step in, and I popped her for real in the mouth, and you could see it. I literally felt her lip squish against my fist and her teeth. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever felt that feeling of punching someone in the face, but you felt it, and she was legitimately smacked, and I was scared to death that I'd knocked her teeth out or broken her nose. So it was a pretty heavy thing, but in retrospect, when we found out she was okay, because backstage both of us were just devastated.
And what, are you just like apologizing profusely?
Yeah, and it only goes so far. But Shawn was really taking a lot of pressure on himself too for putting her in that position in the first place.
Yeah,
but it was okay. She just kind of had a fat lip.
Was she okay with it, or was she like, you didn't tell me I was going to get punched in the face?
Well, she wasn't supposed to get punched in the face.
That's what I mean. Like, is she of the mind frame like, well, this type of thing happens?
Well,
or
she was in the business. She was a Nitro girl,
right? So
she kind of knew how it worked, and I doubt she was happy about it. But she was actually the coolest out of all 3 of us, as far as
that's good news.
Yeah, it was cool. So when we found out that she was okay over the next few days, she went for X-rays and her teeth were fine, etc. It actually turned out to be a huge plus because that's what took that level from part of the program, part of the product, to this whole other world, because everybody in the crowd could empathize with, listen, wrestling is wrestling, all fine and dandy, I hit you, you hit me, but if somebody ever fucking punched my wife or girlfriend,
right,
or
and it was real
in the face, for real, I would kill them. And we didn't come out there and say, I really hit her for real, but you didn't have to say it. You just showed that replay, and you could see it was like the cover of Vulgar Display of Power by Pantera. You could see the fist pulling the face in another direction. As a matter of fact, that was so good, I'm going to write that down and use that in the book.
Use it. But try to, if you could maybe mention a little Sam Roberts in there somewhere too, that would be great for me. Did you? So
of course,
when
the whole book is actually called My Life with Sam Roberts.
That's great because
my life with Sam Roberts #2, not the Sam Roberts you may be thinking of.
Right, the slightly lesser one, but the one that's got a little more potential for future.
Yeah.
Did you? Because that added a realness to it that wasn't just like, because everybody knows what the deal is, but for even fans that are watching and have been watching wrestling forever, they looked at that like, I think they're going old school with this storyline because nobody knew if you had punched her in the face by mistake or if you guys had gone backstage and you'd agreed, we're going to add realness to this and I'm going to hit her.
or maybe I just was a dick.
Or maybe you're a dick and take
Because at that
liberties
point in
out
time, it's funny because I watched back some of the stuff, and it's easy to talk back about that time and think about how cool it is. But when you watch it, I had so much heat. Like, it was ridiculous. I really had redefined my whole character and changed around, and people were pissed.
Which is difficult for somebody like you to do, especially.
Well, yeah, and to do it to keep it going for an extended amount of time. It was almost 2 years. But at that point in time, with all the stuff that I'd been doing to Shawn, because that character probably would have been almost babyface-esque if it wasn't with somebody like Shawn, who was the best babyface ever. So he played it perfectly, and you really felt for him and really wanted to see him kill me.
Right, because normally somebody who's playing a heel that well, fans are just going to applaud.
The best heels always end up as baby faces because they're so entertaining. Look at the Joker, look at Terminator, look at Darth Vader, Hannibal Lecter. They're all so evil. Freddy Krueger, but then after the second or third movie, you start liking them.
Even Darth Maul, just based on the posters.
Right.
Nobody had seen it, but he looked so cool.
He looked so cool.
Like, that's the man.
And then they didn't do anything with him, so it was so lame that you did make him a heel. The point being, it was just a really cool time for me because I was able to kind of reconfigure this whole character that I was doing, and people bought it huge. I mean, I was getting attacked on the streets.
Really?
Countless
yeah,
times.
That's right. You had that whole altercation.
In Victoria, but it happened in South Carolina. It happened in Las Vegas. So it was probably the end of that era where people really believed that a heel was that they really hated somebody.
Are you of the mindset that you like that they bought in that much?
I loved it.
You liked that you were getting attacked.
Oh, absolutely. That's showing that I did my job as a bad guy.
Yeah, because I think Stone Cold Steve Austin on one of his podcasts said a lot of guys now are afraid to get that kind of heat.
No, and I was completely committed to it. I had studied acting back in 2006, kind of method acting, and I dropped in. There was no one that could fuck with me when I was that character. And if I was in the arena or anywhere in the vicinity, I would not sign autographs. I remember one time in Madison Square Garden, you park underneath and you get in the elevator, and there was a guy and his kid, about the same age as my son, wanting autographs, standing right beside me, and I wouldn't even look at him. I wouldn't acknowledge him. I wouldn't say a word, and that guy was so pissed off at me. Because if I signed that kid's autograph, and an hour later, I'm trying to get heat in Madison Square Garden. I got 18,000 people booing and two guys going, he's really a nice guy.
Yeah.
That's bad. I want every person to hate. Same reason why I didn't allow them to make merchandise. There was no Chris Jericho merchandise in that day and age because I didn't want guys like you and me, oh, Jericho's the best. That's where I wanted to piss those. I wanted to take out my cock and hit those guys in the face. Like, you think you're cool because you like me? Let me show you what cool is and fucking spit in your eye.
Right.
And see if you like me there. That's kind of my mindset. Like, I want the world to hate me, and that's why that character worked so well.
Two of the only guys, you and Bubba Ray Dudley, are probably the only two guys that have managed
Bubba's another example of that, yeah.
Like, because he's as cool as it gets and will not stop until you hate him.
Right.
Like, he'll start a fight with you.
Yeah, exactly. He'll start a fight, and if you think it's funny, you keep punching you until you believe it.
Yeah.
So my point being with this long roundabout story is that's when I really got the respect from Vince in the office. And
not till then.
Well, in my opinion,
that's
because in my opinion, that's when I became a legitimate top guy.
Yeah.
You could be the undisputed champion and all this other stuff. That's fine. But when I became that character, that's when I really became the Chris Jericho that could do, I can still do wrong, but can do no wrong as a figure of speech.
There's very few people that are versatile enough to pull off, to go from cartoony ponytail on the top of the head to putting on a suit and pissing everybody off.
Well, and at that time, nobody was wearing suits. Nobody was talking slowly.
Yeah.
And as that character got over, that was how Vince started telling heels to act, maybe subconsciously. He never said act like Jericho, but he said, you need to slow down and you need to talk slowly and calmly. And everyone started wearing suits. And you could see the influence that character had. And I know Regal always gets mad at me. He's like, I've been wearing suits the whole time, but it was different.
Yeah.
This was a whole, the reason I wore a suit was not to look dapper. The reason why I wore a suit is the same reason why Nick Bockwinkel wore a suit, because the people in the crowd could not identify with that. Most people come dressed like we are right now. They come to see the show.
Right.
They're not wearing suits and ties.
Condescending.
And that's why I use the big words too.
Right.
Because it's condescending and people don't like being talked down to.
You told a really interesting story in your second book about first getting to the WWE and like coming in and you had this meeting with Vince McMahon in his house and everything's good. But then real quick after you get there, you talk about the first time he really gave you a browbeating. And let you know how things were going to go.
Yeah, well, when I got there, I mean, I was by myself, for one. I had no friends. All of my friends were still in WCW at the time, and...
Did you have an ego when you came in?
I don't know if I had an ego, but I had a lot of confidence, which can be misconstrued as ego.
Sure.
And I was excited, and I had a vision of what I wanted my character to be. And a lot of people didn't like that. So there was a lot of targets on my back and a lot of arrows fired right off the bat, which is why I kind of went into a real downswing right away, because the powers that be did not like me. DX hated me.
Really?
You know, all those guys hated me.
And what it was because, like, you come out of nowhere and now all of a sudden
Same
you're
reason-
getting top spots that we've been fighting for?
Well, yeah, and then who does this guy think he is?
Right.
Type thing. You say, I think it's the same reason why Punk had problems when he first came in. You have confidence, you believe in yourself, which is misconstrued as arrogance and misconstrued as a know-it-all. And I didn't play it well either. I was a little bit naive and a little bit too vocal in the way I said things and did things. It's the same way I act now, but now I have the carte blanche and the respect to do that. If I
Right.
don't like something, I'll just say this is fucking terrible.
Yeah, that's funny.
Whereas when you say it when you first come into the company, probably not the best way to do things.
You know what you're capable of from the beginning, but it's not until you've actually done it that you can act like
That's
that.
right. Until you prove it to, especially back then when guys were coming in from other countries and places that they'd been over. I was a big star in Mexico and Japan and had gotten over in WCW, anywhere I went. But until you go through the curtain in the WWE and prove it to Vince who you are, he doesn't give a shit what you've done in the past.
So was it must have been before you were wearing a suit, when you were first comfortable with Vince McMahon in a room. Like, okay, we can...
Yeah, but still there was, I left in 2005 because I
Yeah.
was burned out and I didn't feel like I felt like I was treading water and I felt like the company was taking me for granted and I was starting to lose my powers.
Mhm.
So I was still friends with him, talk to him on the phone and talk to him in the office, but it wasn't until 2008 where I could go in there with a legitimate idea and he would listen to it.
He's looking at you almost like an equal.
Yeah.
At least on a creative mind level.
It respects me.
Yeah.
And that's, from the Shawn thing, we went right into the Mysterio thing, which was a massively successful angle that I wrote the whole fucking thing.
Uh-huh.
Then we went into the 7-on-7 NXT versus the heroes of the WWE, which I had a lot of influence in. And,
Right.
the whole CM Punk thing last year was my orchestration, my idea. The alcoholism thing was not the way we were originally going to go. The original idea was I wanted to tattoo him, which Vince approved and then pulled it.
He would have done it.
Yeah, Punk wanted to do it, but Vince just didn't get it. He didn't understand. He's like, he's got 1 million tattoos already, but it's like
What would you have tattooed? What would you have...
my initials.
That would have been so fucking cool.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like he's like, well, he's got 1 million tattoos. What difference does it make? I said, Vince, it doesn't matter.
Where would you
All
have
those
done it?
tattoos mean something to him.
Yeah.
And for me to desecrate him, it's like sticking a fucking, a table leg up his ass. It's like, you can be gay and it's like I said, it's like a girl can fuck 100 guys, but if you rape her, that's rape.
Yeah.
And I'm raping him. And Vince just did not want to do it. Someone told him that tattoos, probably someone who doesn't have a lot of tattoos, told him that tattoos create blood. And as soon as he heard that, he turned his mind on it. But tattoos don't bleed.
No.
They do slightly, but
not that you'd see
not
on
where
television.
you would see it on television where it's gushing out,
Right.
And I think just other people didn't like it, and Vince just agreed with those other people. But it's too bad because it would have been a great angle. We went with the alcoholism thing, which was still ended up being good.
Yeah, it was good. Where were you going to tattoo him?
I think there was a spot on his chest area or on his arm. He didn't have a lot of real estate. He's pretty covered. But there was an area that we thought we could do it.
And you want to just put CJ or something?
I wanted to do. I was going to take a tattooing lesson, or have somebody show how do you do C and a J. But then there was logistical issues, like how would he be down that long? And so anyways, point being, that was the original thought process because I wanted to do something, that I'd done for my most famous angles. One, that made it personal. Punching Shawn's wife,
right?
Personal. Wanting to steal Mysterio's mask just because I could.
Mm-hmm.
Taking off the Batman's mask because I'm the Joker. That was that one. And then, the other one was
And the tattoo
Punk
thing is another thing that's real.
It's real. It's real and it's personal.
Yeah.
So.
All right, well, we got to clear out the studio, I guess.
Is Al Sharpton waiting for us?
Yeah, I think Al Sharpton's waiting for us. I appreciate you sitting down.
Thanks, Sam. I'm glad you got your own show finally.
And check, where can people find info on Fozzy? Because that's what we're promoting now.
For the last 3 seconds.
Yeah.
FozzyRock.com or FozzyRock on the Twitter.
Right.
When does this air?
Sunday.
So we're touring the country. So check out Fozzy Rock for all the dates and come see us.
Very cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam.